Welcome guys to this Project 12 video where we're going to be setting up the HTML for our webpage about Samoa, Heart of the Pacific. So as you can see on screen, I've already got this web page open here. So this is our finished product that we're going to try and produce for this project. Now in this particular part we're going to be setting up the structure of the web page and not the styling at this stage. So yeah, this is though what we're going to be trying to eventually end up with. Now for this project I'm going to be using Notepad++. If you're at school, feel free to use Dreamweaver if you prefer, but remember that this work should also be done at home, and so I'm going to use Notepad++ so that you can see how this can also be done without the use of Dreamweaver. Okay, so in this particular part here, what I've got open is I've opened up the text file that's got the text for the first page and also the text for the sidebar area. I've set up a little bit of the HTML here and saved it as index, so you should be doing the same. Now I am going to be cutting and pasting material over from these two files here, so yeah, let's get started. Okay, so for the first section then, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be putting the a section in with a class of wrapper. That should be pretty familiar to you now, because I need to have this wrapper to basically be able to target it for styling, and also it will enclose the whole page. Okay, so got that done. Now I'm going to be putting in the header. There's only one thing I'm going to put into the header region, and that is actually an image. Now the reason why the only thing I'm putting in is this image is because this well, that's all I need in it. And the other thing too is later on we're going to be setting up the page so it can be scaled if somebody resizes the web page. So I want the image in as actual content, not just as a background, for that reason. Normally images, unless they contain actual content, should be put in as a background, but for this particular case I need it to be actual content so I can then scale it later. Okay, so what I've done there is I've set up the path to the image. Try and get the spelling right, always helps. And of course we should have some alt text as well. Okay, got that done. Okay, for the width and the height, now sometimes you can specify those, and I think for our particular situation here though, I'm not going to actually specify that, so that should do it. Now what we should be doing here of course is to view things as we go to make sure that things are working. Okay, so yep, that looks fine. Okay, don't worry too much about the styling not being the same as this one, because we haven't done the styling yet. Okay, next section I'm going to be putting in a nav section, and that's going to contain an unordered list. Now for the interest of saving a little bit of time, I'm going to be cutting and pasting some of this code over. from my finished product. Now, if you're wanting to unindent a section quite quickly, you can do that by going Shift Tab after highlighting the section first, of course. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got an unordered list, some list items. Inside that are our links, our anchors, and I've got 2 pages that I'm currently linking to. This Mal movement page here, I'm actually going to make that into a dummy link at the moment because we haven't created that page yet. Okay, there's an error there. Okay, that's looking better. Alright, let's just test the page again. Yep, that's looking the way that it should do. Okay. Now we're going to have various links down the page because it's a rather long page. If you have a look at this again here, you see we're going to have some of these internal links that will take us back to the top of the page. Good idea when you've got a bit of content in there. Also for your assessment, if you're wanting to show one of those more advanced kind of features, having those internal links is I would count as being one of those more advanced features. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up an anchor at this stage near the top of the page. And you might recall to do this you had to give it a name, which I'm going to call top, and I'm going to give that, if it behaves itself, an ID equal to top as well. Okay, let's close that, and that didn't work as well as I expected it. There we go, and then close the anchor. Okay, having done that, now we've got our anchor near the top that we can target later. Right, this next part we're going to be using a section. This is where the main text is going to go. I'm going to be giving this a class of content. Remember, the class name is completely arbitrary. You decide what you want there. And we need to close that section. Now, since the page is going to be rather long, I'm going to be putting a comment in here. Okay, so there's my comment, the end of the content section. Now for this next part, I'm going to be now trying to cut and paste a few things over. In fact, for this, now this thing I will type in the heading for this part. Paste that one over though. Okay, so we've got the main heading. Okay, we're going to have another image now. This is the one for Samoa 1 resized. Let me just copy a bit of that over. Okay, so here's our Samoa 1 resized. Need to close off that particular tag. Okay. Right, now for this next part, definitely going to start copying a few things over. Right, so this is text for the first page. Right, so this is going to be that first paragraph. some paragraph tags here. And let's insert that. All good. Now, if you refer back to our home page, you'll notice that this Samoan Customs, I'll definitely want that to go underneath that image there. So you might recall that we did this kind of thing from, or in another project, so I'm going to be using this clear float styling, basically inserting an empty div at the end of this paragraph and then forcing that div to go underneath anything which is floated, and this image will be floated. I'm going to use that quite a bit here. I think here, oopsie daisy, here as well, possibly where we need to enforce a clear float. Sorry, not in those regions, definitely this one here. Okay, so let's insert that now. Okay, so we're going to have to obviously create this clear float class, the styling for it later. Okay, so the next part is another heading, H2 heading. This will be Samoan Customs. Really, that should have a capital, really. Now for Samoan Customs, if I zip back to the web page, you notice that's an unordered list here. Okay, and I'm actually going to use it as an unordered list. So yeah, let's get that over. Okay, now the actual text itself, doesn't look like I brought that over. Okay, so that text itself, I think I'll have to update the text for the home page a little bit, because those various bullet points there, we need to make sure that they're over. Okay, so basically these bits of text here. Right, so that's our unordered list, and we're then going to, at the moment this is simply a piece of text. See more at this website. We can make it into a link later. Okay, so that's a paragraph. Okay, next one. Anybody recognize what that one does? Yeah, that's that horizontal rule, this line here that we're going to have going across, just splitting the page up visually. Okay, which is a good thing to do, I think, when you've got, you know, various sections on your page and you want some visual separation between them. Okay, so having done that, time we tested our page here. So let's launch in Chrome. Yep, that's looking fine, all good. Okay, so for the next part, yeah, we wanted another image over. This is the one of the map of Moa resized. So I'm just going to bring that over. And we should have some alt text for that as well. And then we need to close off our image tag. Okay, always a good idea to test the images that come through. Yep, there we go, that's all good. Okay, now the next is some great big chunk of text. So let's go to here, and that's going to be all the way down to lines. Okay, let's copy that. Let's bring that over. If things are not indented properly, don't worry too much about it. Okay, remember you can shift tab and tab when you highlight the sections. Okay, so this one here, okay, we actually needed a heading. Okay, so we've got the location. Now we're going to put in some paragraph tags around various sections here. And that's another paragraph there. Oh, excuse me. Close my email. I was going to get those dings all the time. Right, I'm just going to pause the video. I'm going to put these various paragraph tags in. Back in a moment. Alright guys, back again. Here we've got these various paragraph tags in now. I like to actually have some separation between the paragraphs normally, unless it's going to make the page too long, but yeah, feel free to take those extra blank lines out if you don't like them there. Right, for this next part, here is a spot where we're going to put in one of those links that anchor near the top of the page, i.e. we're going to do some internal navigation. And top of page was the text we want to see. Okay, so all going well, that should actually work. We should be able to actually test that. Now, why is that not working? Okay. Well, we've got the text in place, but we actually don't have that working at the moment. Okay, just going to pause the video. Alright guys, back again. Looks like I typed this slightly incorrectly here, so just have a careful look at that. That is the correct thing. And if we look at that inside the browser, okay, then that's working now. It should be that blue default blue and underline is the default. Okay, so getting back to here. Okay, next part, what we need is the section for culture, and we want that horizontal rule again. Let's copy and paste that one. Okay, the section on culture. Now once again, just to save a bit of time, I'm going to cut and paste over quite a chunk of stuff here. Okay, so what have I copied over? Well, we've got this, let me just indent that. Here we go. And maybe separate the paragraphs a little bit visually. Just so they stand out for you guys a little easier. yes, we do need the other section down there. We need to comment that in a minute. Alright, just getting back to here, guys. Sorry about that delay. Right, so we've got a heading culture and H2 headings. Various paragraphs being taken over here. Okay, and we've got our image of the fire spinning. So be careful when you type that. You may actually like to rename that image and then bring it over, which might be a much better idea than that really difficult name that's been used there on that one. I'll leave you to do that. So you can rename the image first, maybe just a fire spinning .jpg, and then put that as the file name in here when you try and bring it over. Okay, so we've got our paragraph. We've got a link once again to the top of the page, and then that is essentially going to be the end of our content. Now this other section, this one here, it's not the end of content, of course. It's the end of the wrapper, and I should have commented that before. Good practice to comment those sections as you go. Alright, let's have a look at that. Okay, make sure the images are coming over, our links are working. Yeah, all good. Alright, so let's now go to the news box section. Now on this page, as you can see here, not only do we have our sort of navigation underneath the header and our content, but we've obviously got a two-column structure. In this right hand column, it's got little news snippets here. Okay, now in HTML5, one way you could label that is to call this an aside, and aside is like this sidebar. So that's what we're going to call it as well. Use that aside tag, and then what we're going to do is set up inside that 3 divs, all with a class of news box, because they're 3 identical, at least in terms of styling, news boxes. Okay, so let's do that. Right, so this is an aside. So how do you type that? Well, get the spelling right always helps. So that's an aside, and let's close that tag. Here we go, and let me just do the first one manually, and then I'm going to bring over the others finished ones. So this is a div we're creating. We're going to give it a class equal to news box. Make sure we've got the spelling of that right. Okay, and let's close that div. Let's tidy this up a bit. And inside that, we're going to be putting a heading for a start. Why am I using H4? Okay, it's a reasonably small size heading, but I can overwrite that. I should, strictly speaking, have used H3 because I haven't used H3 yet. However, since I've already done this one, I'm going to stick with what I've got already. I'm going to call it H4. Okay, practical information. Of course, that should be a closing tag, not an opening one. Okay, and then we need to bring in a paragraph or a couple of paragraphs. Yeah, just for the interest of time, I'm going to bring that over straight away. Now, if you want to find that text, it's text with sidebar. Here is the 2 paragraphs that are just brought over. Okay, and I've put some paragraph tags around that. And the only thing we need to do now is to close off that div. And I'm going to put a comment in here as well. Okay, end of newsbox div. Okay, so just checking for opening and closing tags. Yeah, I think it looks okay. Let's check it once again in the browser. Okay, looks alright. Don't worry about the spacing at this stage, we'll get that fixed up with the styling. Okay, now I'm going to bring over two further, or create two more of these news boxes. Okay, so this is the next one here. Let me just put a little bit of visual separation between them. That's the second one. I don't know why I've got so much tabbing in there. Just try and tidy that up. That's better. Okay, and for this next one here, okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, and let's tidy up the spacing on that one too. Okay, find that a little bit easier to read. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3 news boxes. All good. Now we do need to finish off that aside. In fact, we've already done that. And an extra rogue div tag here, I think. Okay, so that's the way that that should be looking. Okay, all good. Now, for this next part, let me just zip back to our finished product. Okay, we definitely want to have this text here. Yeah, we want the footer to basically definitely go underneath this aside section. So I'm going to add in another one of these empty divs with the class of clear float. So let's actually grab that one there, and let's go down the bottom here, and let's paste that in. Okay, and I just notice a major problem there. Okay, let's see this end of content section. We need to cut that out of there because we need to actually put it at the end of the content. That would have been a bright idea, eh? So let's put that up there. Okay, and let's put a little comment in here that this is the end of the aside section. Okay, and we're almost there. The only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in place for this footer to go, and you notice that the navigation we've got down the bottom sort of replicates navigation at the top, but it's been done in that way that just uses text overlaying an image. So to achieve that, yeah, we're going to create that navigation inside some footer tags. So making sure that we are still inside the wrapper, but after the clear float. So we're going to have a footer section, a bit like a header, but it's at the bottom of the page. In fact, it can be anywhere, but typically would be at the bottom. And now for this next one, excuse me, once again got a bit of sinus there. Okay, notice I'm using a generic div for the navigation. Why am I doing that? The reason being is that we've already used nav at the top of the page here, and I don't want to apply the same styling to this section here as I do at the top nav. So I'm just going to use a generic div and put the class of nav here. Okay, and then we've got an unordered list inside here, and let's make that our dummy link again, not a real link, because we haven't got that page done yet. Okay, and yep, we should put a comment in here. I think that should be about done. Let's have a look. Yep, so it is. Sorry this has been a bit long, but it was quite a bit of work that we needed to do there. So, okay, all the best guys, we'll look at styling this next time.